there are things that we have that have incredible positive energy, and we have to hang on to those things. The things that don't have that positive energy, let it go. Goals should be ridiculously simple. Like, it almost sounds laughable. If I say it out loud, someone will say that's not a goal because that's easy to do. It's the perfect goal.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. I'm your host, Baba Sam, the Miracle Man. Today we have a very bright, vibrant soul with us. So welcome, Melanie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that are not familiar with you, who is Melanie?
Oh boy. Quite a question. I feel like I can probably answer that with a whole lot of different personalities, but at its roots, I'm a native New Yorker. I'm a former competitive gymnast. I am a short woman who was formerly over 200 pounds. I am the adult daughter of a crack addict. Both of my parents are hoarders, and my goal in life now is to help people remove the physical and mental clutter in their lives, the visible and the invisible clutter, which gets in the way of us having a happy and healthy and vibrant life.
So that's basically got you on your journey to get your parents being hoarders. And how does that messy household affect our well-being?
So, what I will say is, as a kid, there wasn't as much physical clutter as there was mental clutter. And in fact, I would say that some of that emotional clutter came from the concept of scarcity. My father sold drugs on the side of being a chemical engineer, but his side hustle is what funded private school and gymnastics and sleepaway camp and my mom having nice things. It all starts with that. And when you have a scarcity mindset, you hold on to things. It's hard to let things go because just in case I may need this later, like overly stocked refrigerator because there may not be food later. So I learned more from a mental standpoint. As an adult, in retrospect, when my parents split up, my father was in rehab. He had lost his business. They lost my childhood home, his car, and I was estranged from my parents for some time. Fast forward, my father's clean 30 years. My mother and he both still struggle with stuff. So much of that comes from that scarcity mindset, but it's also like these are the special things. The wedding album of two people who are divorced, it's not needed anymore, but saving every last thing because for some reason that thing has memories and energy in it that we need to keep. And there are things that we have that have incredible positive energy, and we have to hang on to those things. The things that don't have that positive energy, let it go.
Yeah, that's a good point because this reminds me. I've known somebody that was a hoarder and they literally had trails throughout their house. And I would ask her, like, why you have this? Like kids' clothes from like 1 or 2 years old that still have those memories and all this stuff. And it's like, what is the first step to clearing away, whether it's this mental or physical clutter? How do we begin this journey?
I'd like to joke and say very carefully that both physically and mentally. At the end of the day, a large amount of hoarders have OCD, which sounds completely counterintuitive. If someone has OCD, then they should be perfectly organized, I think is what we automatically think. When in fact, what happens as we're building our hoard or building our collection, what do you sounds so negative. So someone who's collecting stuff, and that stuff even becomes things like old newspapers and recycling they can't get rid of. It because there is that thought process that it has to be done in one fell swoop. That's it. I'm going to give up my weekend. We're going to clean out the house and that's going to be it. But it's so overwhelming that it's very easy to say, oh, I don't have enough time today, or I'm too tired, or there's something else I need to do. And then it keeps getting put off over and over and over. And that procrastination eventually just paralyzes the person with that clutter. Because if I can't do it now, why even bother? My goal in helping people is to walk away from the framework like I have to fix it immediately and all at once. Instead, setting ridiculously simple goals as a way of getting started, even if it means one drawer in the kitchen or one drawer in the dresser, or maybe even like half of the desk, one shelf in the refrigerator, as small as possible, because the smaller the goal is, the easier it is to achieve. You pat yourself on the back. You're both more motivated and more confident in being able to clean the next thing.
That's really the key is the small steps for anything in
Yes.
life. When you're writing a book, I tell people, even if you write a line or two, it's a start. If you look at the whole book,
Right.
you're like, this is too much. I can't do this. But if you can write a
Yeah.
paragraph a day or sentences a day,
It
perfect.
will
Get
get
into
done.
Yep. You will have a book in the long run, but you have to start
Yes.
someplace. So you help people to make
100%.
help you find that smallest step that will get them on that goal, whether it's just
Right.
cleaning their sock drawers. They don't even think about it
Absolutely.
because the mind likes to overcomplicate things. And I think that's where the OCD, because I had that bipolar OCD mind that's always go, 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 go. You can't compartmentalize. It's like one big task and we got to get it done now. And it's like, no, break it down.
I wanted to touch on the OCD for a minute more because, in retrospect, looking at someone like my mother by education is a librarian. And when you think of a library, everything has its place. And when we were all younger, the Dewey Decimal Card system and knowing exactly where to find things. And so I see that craving for things to have order, but real life doesn't necessarily have that kind of systematic order to it naturally built in. You have to create it for yourself. If you're trying to create the Dewey Decimal System overnight, it's not going to happen. I like to use that as an example because it shows us how many places in life are not so natural, but we're still craving to create systems and order in things that sometimes just don't have systems or order.
Life isn't a linear path. It's usually chaotic all over the place. But
Exactly.
if you try to do that to your mental or physical clutter, it just really becomes overwhelming. So it's finding those little
Yes.
small things and doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So we were talking before the show that you really helped me discover this healthy life by decluttering because we
Mhm.
get all this stuff built up and the mental clutter to begin with that spreads into the physical. I imagine it starts here and it spreads out into the physical.
Or we end up on the hamster wheel because I'm stressed and full of anxiety and can't address the clutter in my life, which then means the clutter is building up and increases stress levels. So I'm more stressed and it gets me into this unhealthy cycle. If clutter is stressful, like other things in life, what's the response to the stress? How do you manage the stress? Just like any emotion, whether it's heightened ones like frustration, anger, anxiety, or low emotions like sadness or deep depression, we deserve to manage those feelings. We deserve to feel better, whether we need a lift up or to settle down. For so many people, the way to manage feelings are drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. The drugs was my father's way. And so for me, it was food. For years before my father, my grandfather was a gambler. Addiction runs strong in my family. Knowing both my father and grandfather's stories of losing a lot because of their addiction, food was the easy one to go to. I wasn't going to lose the family home. I wasn't going to lose the family business. But what an unhealthy relationship with food I had had. It's a great answer to stress because it makes you feel better. Tastes good. Of course, it tastes good. If you're eating for stress, you're going to carby, fatty, sugary kinds of things. But the feeling better is so short term. It is fleeting. And then a whole new emotion. I can't believe I did that to myself. What's wrong with me? All the things we say to ourselves that create mental clutter. That's not fair.
And these addictions, may we not be aware of them, but they're very harmful. I always like to say
Yes.
that our greatest addiction is addiction to our thoughts, taking our thoughts as the truth. I call this mental clutter the head trash that we need to throw out, that it's not serving us. But it's not
Right.
easy. The mind wants to attach to every little thing. Like there's an importance to every little clutter. You just can't snap out of it. The mind's
No.
addicted and is in this loop. You have to
Right.
do something to break that cycle. So how do you feel? What's that first thing you do to break that cycle to say, like, this isn't helpful?
But first, acknowledging the fact that we feel a certain way actually has its roots in something. It's not like I want to be a negative thinker, so I'm going to be a negative thinker and never think positively. I might not really quite understand that. Let me get in touch. For example, when my parents split up, my dad went to rehab and I was asked to leave college because they hadn't been paying my tuition. It would have been really easy to sink down and be capable of nothing for a few days. And then, with the help of my boyfriend, then my now husband, and my girlfriends and my college advisor, really sat me down. You didn't cause this. And because you didn't cause this, you can't blame yourself. And while you may not be able to continue at your education, what can you do? I dove immediately into a career that I knew I could do, education or not. And I loved it. But it had to be about shifting and saying, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. Validate that. And then say, but this isn't how I want to feel. How do I want to feel? And how am I going to get there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think, the blame game is very important, especially if you're overweight, it's so easy to blame yourself, but you didn't really see what the underlying issue is that what you think?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's wrong with me? Why do I will say though, there was someone in my life, a friend whose wedding party I was in. I wasn't at my top weight. My older daughter was maybe a year old. So I was like 30 or 40 pounds overweight, but enough that I wasn't feeling particularly feminine. I didn't feel pretty. And the dress she picked out, there was no way it was going to look good on me. And in fact, it didn't come in my size. And I had to call this friend of mine and say, I'm really, really sorry. I don't think I can be in the wedding party. This dress only goes up to a 12. I don't understand. She was really upset with me because she wanted me to stand up for her. She wanted me to be present for her in a way she had been present for me. This was a skinny girl that had never had a problem with food. And she literally said to me, well, why don't you just eat less? If it was that easy, I wouldn't have had to make that phone call because I wouldn't have been overweight. I've been like, oh, sure, I'll just eat less. There's so much more to it. And rest assured, we're still friends. This is my older daughter's 28. So this is like 27 years ago. We're still friends. We had a conversation about it much later after I had lost all of my weight, over 60 pounds. I finally was able to sit down. And yeah, I just need to let you know it hurt I'm over it now. It hurt my feelings. And I need you to know that for some people, this is a very serious problem. It's not as flippant as saying, well, I'll go to the gym 2 more times this week and maybe I'll lose all of the weight.
Right, but that's the thing, we oversimplify it. If everyone could eat less, stop thinking negatively, and all this, like a snap of a finger, it doesn't work that way, and that's why I tell
Right.
people, like we were talking about before, it's small steps. What's that one
Right.
thing you can do today to change that behavior? Been on
Exactly.
this hamster wheel for, in my case, 38 years before I got off. Until that time, I was very sick. But when I jumped off the hamster wheel, I got my health back. For me, it was that 5-minute practice of being still. So I think it's all what you're coming down to is just these small, simple steps, regardless
Yeah.
of physical clutter, mental clutter, whatever it may be. Now, for this mental
Yeah.
clutter, do you do things like meditation? What's this process to declutter the mind for in your world?
100%. And I was one of those people who was incapable of meditation despite thinking that was going to be the most healthy thing for me. I will tell you, the one time meditation worked, I was a young gymnast and they would bring in Reiki healers and other things. I was in a gym that was very progressive. What I do remember was not just me, all of my teammates just wanted meditation to be over because all we wanted to do was tumble and dance and swing and fly through the air. And people were making us meditate. But I learned the body scan, and that technique helps me fall asleep almost every night. And that's an easy one to do in terms of scanning the body and checking in with how it feels. I am a huge proponent of guided meditation because there are so many people who walk into it saying, well, I can't meditate because my mind is always going. Well, that's why we need to meditate. And of course, our mind is supposed to wander. Our brain was designed to be constantly going and thinking. So we can't necessarily ask ourselves to completely shut down unless we're actually capable of that. But more importantly, just to use it as an opportunity, whether it's a 1 minute meditation, a 3 minute, a 5 minute, 30-minute meditation, just something that allows us to slow down the breathing and let go of the thoughts that are uncomfortable and replace them with more positive ones. Easier said than done sometimes, but I am a huge proponent of using that as a way of removing the mental clutter.
Meditation, or even a simple mindfulness practice.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Like for your gym, they
Gratitude journal, gratitude journal every day in my life.
mhm. Like your progressive gym could have took your practice and made it to a mindfulness practice that would have helped you with that mindset.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I was ready for it. My mom used to push meditation on me when I was a kid, and I was like, crazy scientist, man. And it should you ever listen to this, I suppose I'll have to say, you're right, Dad. Meditation's good.
Yeah, it's always saying you need to find that thing that works for you. We're all
Right.
built differently. We have different experiences. You have to find that thing that works for you. Now, you mentioned body
Exactly.
scan. I know what that is, but for people that don't know what that is, can you go through that a little bit?
I start with my pinky toe. It's almost like touching with your brain, the pinky toe, the knuckle, the ring finger toe, the middle toe, making your way up the top of the arch, the bottom of the arch, the heel. Some nights I don't even get to the knee. I have fallen asleep. And there are days where I go through however many bones and muscles there are in the body and have to start all over again. It is also a great way to really be in touch with, is there something that's injured or not well? Being able to do that in a meaningful way. Not that I'm going to cure myself while I'm falling asleep, but I can get better in touch with why my ankle is hurting me today or why my digestive system feels a little out of whack. I think it's hugely important for mental and physical purposes.
Or just becoming aware of the body and what's
Mhm.
going on with the body so you can see, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
underlining
Yeah.
issue? But it's that mentally
Absolutely.
touching each body part, like a yoga nidra.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, we were talking earlier too, this program they have, Design Your Healthy Life, and then you have this
Mhm.
ebook that cooks your life through simple steps. Was this your whole process to really simplify things? Could you talk to me more about this program that you have? How do we get a healthy life? Like in my case, I had multiple
Mhm.
sclerosis. Where do you begin with somebody with MS?
It's intense. I think everything starts with exercise and nutrition. That doesn't mean someone needs to start going to the gym every day for 45 minutes. I just need to move more, whether movement is through yoga or listen, we both live in New York City. There's nothing better than a good walk in New York. If you are near nature, also amazing. Research shows that spending time in nature can shift mood instantaneously. It doesn't take time, that it's instantaneous. But when it comes to the physical piece, my goal is for people to find their own. My program is a mindset first methodology. So while I help people lose weight and get healthy, we really do it by focusing on, I've written 50 lessons. So everything from emotional eating to analysis paralysis and motivation from within. And my goal is to really start in the brain as opposed to starting with eating a certain way. The book is all about the relationship between weight and clutter, which is pretty significant. And I talk about ways to declutter space, specifically the kitchen. If we have a cluttered home, every room in our home can affect our weight. Kitchen is like where it all begins. That's where I prepare the food that I eat. The food that I eat is going to affect my weight, whether I'm losing, gaining, or staying the same. I also talk in the book about removing the mental clutter. Two of the basics. I talk about all forms of clutter, but the booklet focuses on those two that I think make a more immediate effect on health, wellness, and weight.
Yeah, it all begins with our mindset first. And then we need to
Yes.
find our path from there. That
Right.
ultimately it's our path, our way. Because I see life isn't one
Mhm.
size fits all.
No, Absolutely not. I come from the diet industry. I worked for Weight Watchers for 20 years. And it's great when you find the methodology that works for you, whether it's counting points or calories or counting macros. I'm a huge proponent of maybe I don't even need to count those things. Maybe I just need to write down everything that I'm eating. That's it. Like just for awareness. Did I eat enough fruits and vegetables today? Did I eat grains? Did I eat too much fat or sugar today? Without getting into the true nitty gritty of every little detail, unless that's what's going to work best for you. Some people just find that a lot of hard work. Great. Then let's just get into the mindset of I'm going to fuel my body with foods that are nutritious, that give me energy and aid in digestion and all the great things, and lean away from the things that may taste really good in the moment, but don't make me feel better later.
And be really aware of what your mind does with information because counting calories can become a weapon against yourself. So that's an interesting way, like just jotting down the journaling again, just jotting down how did it make you feel today with your diet, your exercise, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because I think it's really important that I don't have a scale in my house. I don't need one. But I know when I was sick, the scale was a weapon. Look at my weight and it starts this system that is not helpful.
This is one of those really interesting tiny times of year to talk about. I know there are a lot of people out there that start weight loss journeys January 1st. A lot of people who start decluttering journeys or no more smoking or vegan January. Like January is a great time to start something, but the reality is I can start today, you know? I like right now is the best time for me to make a change. It just helps when everyone's doing it all at the same time. But this is that time of year where people are likely to gain the most weight. Thanksgiving's next week, and then we roll into Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the holidays that everybody celebrates. And of course, there's always a birthday anniversary or a million other reasons to eat. And if we could just take a step back and realize that eating all of this stuff isn't necessarily going to make us feel better. And it goes back to that whole concept of memories. What's on the Thanksgiving table? The stuff my grandmother made. The memories of my grandmother are in the dish over there and the silver that she left me, and it's also in the memories of the dishes that I'm making, so much connected to things, memories, people, all the things.
Memories are good, but we don't want to be obsessed about it.
We want to live in the present. I mean, the past is important. It's what shaped who we are today. The future is important. Where do we want to go and how do we get there? But being present is really the healthiest space for us to live in.
It's all right here, right now. If we just
Mhm.
focus on this moment, then everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah,
But if you're lost in the mental clutter, you're not here.
exactly.
So it's really about having people stay here, taking those small steps. Go clean up that sock drawer, go clean up your utensils, whatever it may be, to find that
Right.
little thing and just begin. And if you need more help, there's resources out there. Melanie can help you with that decluttering. If it's just too overwhelming, you just don't know where to start. Maybe she can guide you and point you in some direction.
I sure can. I sure can.
'Cause I know I've been in these houses before that are very cluttered, and it's like, I don't know where to begin. There's just so much. Where do we start? And if you're
Right.
OCD, it's a whole different level.
Can I tell you about one of the games or one of the projects that I give my clients?
Yeah.
It's called the 30-day decluttering challenge. And it literally starts with one thing. We do it for 30 days. And on the first day, you get rid of one thing and then you add one every day. So day two, two things, day five things, day nine, nine things, day 12 things. And at the end of the month, if you do it every single day, you get rid of over 450 items, which is insane. But if I told you start with 450 and make your way back, you'd be like, no way. 450 items in a day is a lot. So it makes it easier to be confident you can do it and gain motivation through gaining momentum as the month goes by. Even if you didn't do it every day, even if you said, well, work is busy, I'm only going to do it on the weekends or during the week, we're still getting rid of hundreds of items and that can make a huge impact in our lives.
I guess it accelerates as well. I got rid of 3 things, but I'm seeing these 10 things I can get rid of, and I'm sure there's an acceleration.
If we're having a hard time of letting go of things because we really are attached to our things, once we get that momentum going, it's easier to be willing to let things go.
Are you willing to let go? If you're not
Yeah.
willing, then change isn't going to happen.
No, you're right.
Yeah, and the willingness is sometimes that's the biggest obstacle. You have to get the life, you have to get that awareness to see that I'm not happy with my current life the way it is right now. S-
Right.
So what can I change? Am I willing to change? Am I willing to let go of this spoon, this plate? Am I willing to get
Yeah.
rid of that? I heard this from somebody, one of the minimalists was he had all of his mom's stuff that had memories. So he's like, but I can't store all this stuff. I can't have a storage container just for her stuff. Just took pictures of everything.
I love that. Yeah, I think for so many people, we want to treat like the people who came before us like there's a museum. Like, I'm going to go to the museum and see all of my mother's and my grandmother's stuff. My grandmother wanted me to have some of her things because she knew there would be an attachment. But I don't think my grandmother would want me to be weighed down by her things. Right. So when my grandmother passed away, I asked for one thing. I wanted the pink glass elephant candy dish. I remember where it was on the shelf when she lived on Long Island. It was something that I always noticed. My aunt and my mom were shocked that I just wanted the one thing. And I ended up getting a few other things. I got her silver. She died 7 years ago. I still haven't used silver. And I'll hang on to it for a little longer. Maybe my girls will want it. But I didn't need to take the china, the crystal, the this, the that to have a connection to my grandmother. I just need to see that adorable pink glass elephant covered candy dish to just go, ah, that's
Right.
it.
It's a nice memory that you can hold on to.
I think anybody looking behind me, there are pictures on the wall in my dining room with tons of photographs. I'm not a minimalist. I love things that give me joy and have positive energy. I help people who want to be minimalists, but people are scared when they first hear, like, oh, she's a declutter coach. She's going to make me get rid of everything. I am not. I'm only going to encourage you to let go of the things getting in the way of you being able to enjoy the things that you do love.
Decluttering is so important as someone that guides you through the process because it can be so overwhelming, especially if
Yeah.
you've been a hoarder your whole life. And it can
Yeah.
be a real challenge and all this mental hoarding as well, that we have all these stories that are not serving us, that might be stopping us or limiting us in some way. Sometimes
Yeah.
we got to clear out that space to allow space for new ideas, new ways forward.
Yeah.
Melanie, it was really great to have you on the conversation today. How would people
Thank you.
reach out to you if they want to reach?
I'm on all the social media, Melanie Cohen, or my business name is Thoughtfully Coaching. So yeah, come find me.
What's that one last nugget of wisdom you would impart on someone as we wrap up here today?
I have to go back to the idea of small goals. Goals should be ridiculously simple. Like, it almost sounds laughable. If I say it out loud, someone will say that's not a goal because that's easy to do. It's the perfect goal, the easy thing to do. Pat yourself on the back, feel accomplished, motivated, and inspired for the next step. Ridiculously simple goals.
Right. And I think that's also an important thing too, is celebrate the small victories. Be happy. I
100%.
accomplished something.
In my world, I say celebrate, but don't celebrate it with food or alcohol.
Right.
Find other ways to celebrate.
Right. Celebrate life just in life. Just
I think that's another important takeaway. Food shouldn't be demonized because when we do things are bad or good and we get
Mhm.
all involved in things that are way too deep to discuss in 30 minutes, at the end of the day, if I allow myself to celebrate using things other than food when I do have food, it's still the wonderful thing.
Right. But it's important to let go of all that judgment. So if you want to have a
Yeah.
reward, have a little Hershey kiss or something to take care of that craving.
Or really good chocolate, expensive chocolate. You'll only have one piece.
Thank you, Melanie. I really enjoyed having you on the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you so much.